Yeah, I was looking at my old stuff, what I just made, laying in my bed now, chilling out. Oh, said a lot of stuff, man. I did about the hobby. That's why it's called a hobby, man. It's whatever you like, whatever you want to do. You know, we live in a world where we always gotta follow rules. You gotta look a certain way. You gotta dress a certain way. You even gotta be a certain color. You know, if you're not, then you gotta deal with racism and people talking about you. You know, it's the type of life we live in. You know. But talk a little bit about scripture. If you read God's word, God doesn't talk about color. He talks about people. Because that's what we are. We're people. He teaches us how to love one another. You know, Jesus through his disciples, Peter especially. I like Peter because Peter's a lot like me. Me and Pete probably get along real good. If I knew Pete and he knew me, because our temperament and the way we live. The only thing different, Peter was a fisherman, and I was a journeyman. Journeyman, that means I did general labor. I know journeyman means something else, but I'm using it as an example versus fisherman. Pete liked fishing. That's what they grew up on. I was a journeyman. I can't use my hands like I used to. Doesn't mean I can't use them, as you can see. Look like a little city, from back here. But it's whatever you want to make. Like I was saying about Pete and those guys, It's what's beautiful about the Bible because it talks about people. That's what it talks about. People. P-E-O-P. People. That's what it talks about. And you can find yourself in a person that's in there. I enjoyed the story of Samson because Samson was a strong man. And I admire strength because I'm a little guy. I'm only 5'2", 110 pounds. Well, that's it, little guy. That's what God wanted. That's what he made, and this is what I deal with. Could be a midget. Could be a dwarf. Dwarf's a little bit taller than a midget. But I'm in between that. Not 6'1", not 6 feet, not 5 feet, not even 5'8", 5'2 and a half. Used to be 5'4". That's what it says on my driver's license, but somewhere along I lost half a foot. Maybe when you get old, you just shrink. But guess what? It doesn't matter to me. 58. Nothing's going to change that. Me pouting about it and upset. When I was a kid, I used to get upset about it. Didn't like being short. I wanted to be a tall guy. Tall guys gets the girls. That's what I used to think. But my man had a lot of girlfriends. Not the best looking dude. I was talking to this girl, Jenny. Used to be my girlfriend a long time ago. She cheated, you know how women do. So she went to another guy named Danny. And they're having babies by this guy. Jenny was talking to her kids about me. They looked at me and they said, "Mom, what you like about this guy? He's not even a real good looking guy. He's all right." That's what the kids said, but he's not old. He's not like that. That was their dad. Danny's their dad. Danny looks a lot different now that he had gotten older. He used to remind me, if you ever seen that movie, The Last Dragon, with the black kid that played Bruce Lee. Danny looked a lot like him when he was younger. The build, he was a real tall guy, muscular guy. Danny was. But then when he got older, just like we all do, our faces, our body, everything changes. So Danny didn't look as good as he did when he was young. So I'm looking at him, okay. He looks different now, just like me. Kids tell their moms, what do you like about Jamal? He's not even, that good looking. He's an okay looking guy. But she said the thing about Jamal was the type of man he was. She goes, that attracted me to Jamal. He was strong. He was a hard worker. He brought his money home when I ended up getting mixed up when I was young with crackheads. So ended up losing Jenny to it. But we got older, Jenny and I did. She lost her husband, unfortunately. She calls, sometimes I get in contact with Jenny. So we're talking, Start talking about, hey, maybe we can, try this again. So she tells me, you know, Mom, man, I don't want to grow old by myself. Maybe you and I can, but, when I was a kid, I would have jumped on that, because I was a kid. That's what kids did. Did stupid stuff when we were young. And I probably would have got drugged through the mud because as long as I knew Jenny, that's all she did. She did it to her husband. She did it to her boyfriend, Pat. She did it to me. That's just the type of woman that she is. So she telling me, well, won't you come out here? I live in the desert. That's what Mall Man lives in the desert. Used to live in Arizona, now I'm in Vegas. I'll probably stay in Vegas. Why? Because it grew on me. That's why. It's my home. Go outside. I like the way it looks. When I first came out here, Vegas was very empty. It was more desert than neighborhoods. So I wasn't too keen. I didn't like it too much. And I used to work on the strip at the Ramada. So it was fast-paced, and I wasn't a fast-paced guy back then when I was a young man. I was really secluded into myself and stuff. So I didn't like Vegas. Moved out of Vegas, ended up getting stuck on drugs, and went to this program called Back to Life in Arizona, and fell in love with Arizona because I just liked the way Arizona, still do, like the way Arizona looks. I call it paradise. It looks like paradise. With the palm trees, everything's green, gray, just all different colors in Arizona. So I liked it. But you get older, your mind changes. I come out here to hang out with my mom. Actually, it's my wife's mom. But I call her my mom because I knew Miss Judy all my life. All my teenage life, I knew her. Well, actually, my adult life, when I got into my 20s, about 24, 25, I met Miss Judy and her old man, Robinson, because I used to work with her husband, Robinson. I used to work with him. We used to do demolition, tearing up floors and stuff. I was a young man, so I was able to tear it, but I noticed as I got older, my back kept going out. Because pulling up that glue and that carpet with those clamps, I was strong, but I was getting old. I was getting older. Back. Couldn't handle it no more. Kept going out. I'm missing days of work. John was a cool boss, so he wouldn't fire me, but he'll let me rest until my back get better, then I'll come back to work. But I kept doing it, so I had to quit and get another job. So I went to Target. Started working at Target. Which was an okay job. Didn't like it too much. Real racist. At that job, because it was mixed with white people, a few blacks and Mexicans, and they loved the Mexicans, man. They honored the Mexicans. I used to get real mad, because how they talked to those guys versus how they talked to me. I almost got into a fight with one of my bosses. He was a substitute boss. Like when your teacher gets sick, they give you a substitute. He was one of those, because our boss lady was sick, so they put him in her place and she was gonna be out for a couple of weeks. So anyway, me and this big white dude, forgot his name. He was a real cool guy. We was really cool, me and him, me and the big guy. We was really fast, when doing the toys and stuff. Well, anyway, the little dude gonna run his mouth because he got into a situation with one of the workers at Target. Things wasn't going too well, so he was kind of jacked up from it, and he kept running his mouth. I had his pallet. Comes around the corner, starts yelling, "Go left this pallet on the floor. God dang it," which is unusual for a boss to do that, especially at Target. Our bosses just wasn't like that. They didn't yell like that, But anyway, someone says my name. Jamal left it there. Jamal, come here. So, over to him. What's up? Todd. I don't call him Todd because I don't remember his name. He's yelling at me about the pallet. I said, it's just a pallet, bro. That's what I said. It's just a pallet. And he curses at me. Mother effer, get this freaking pallet off the floor or you're going home. My man got a bad temper, like I told you. He's just a little bit taller than me. He's from the military, though. He's kind of stocky, got puffy arms. So I didn't care, you know. Man, that dude cursed at me. I grabbed that damn pallet, lifted it up over my head, and I was about to smash him with the pallet. Because he pissed, you know, he teed me off when he did that. You know, because I felt that he should have had better respect, because me and Tim, that was his name, Tim, the big guy. His name was Tim. We used to run his floors for him. And boy, you can ask Val, man. Val was a cool boss. Beautiful lady, Val was. But for some reason, she transferred to another store. And then till they got a replacement, they put that guy in her place. Lisa was still there. I didn't like Lisa too much. She was a meanie to me, Lisa was. So I just didn't bother Lisa. But anyway, Lisa was sick that day, so he was running there. He was going through it. You know, like I said, he had some trouble, so he was going through it. So he's yelling and screaming. You know, and he put his hands on my shirt, and he's poking me while he's talking. Pissed me off, man. My temper went through the ceiling, man. Grabbed that pallet, man. I called him all kinds of curse words and picked the pallet up. Now they can see this on camera. And I was about to smash him with it, but Tim came. Big Tim came. And he grabs the pallet. Nah, Jamal. No. What you doing, bro? You know, he grabs the pallet. Tim's a big dude. He's like 6'2", you know, probably about close to 300 pounds. Just a big biker type dude, man. Coolest dude, man. And he looks at the boss and tells the boss, hey, get your butt down there and you leave Jamal alone. He tells the boss that. Go over there, bro, right now, man. Everybody respect everybody. Even, everybody respected Tim. That's all I had to say. So, Tim looks at me. Nah, I was whoop. He grabs the pallet and he puts it back down and he starts laughing. He's like, what's wrong with you, man? I said, that dude, bro. I said, man, that dude accused me of stuff, you know, that I didn't do. And that's one thing I don't like, is being blamed for something I didn't do. You know? Especially if I feel that I'm helping you, man. And then you're going to go off on me because you got problems, bro. And you go, yeah. And he think because I was a little bit shorter, think, man, hey, bro, we can find out. We can see what your special forces is all about, dude. You know, we can find out. You know, that's how I was in my 20s when I was young. I didn't care who he was, bro. I would have fought that big dude Tim, if that's what it came to, you know, because at that time, when I thought I was invincible. You know how you think when you're a kid. So anyway, Tim grabs me, he's like, man, don't worry about it, bro, man. Just go back in the aisle, dude. He comes again. Tim says, you just let me know. He comes again, because me and Tim, we was really, really close. We was homeboys, and Tim didn't like nobody messing with me. And we had another buddy named Myron, which was an Indian dude. But man, Myron was the coolest. Man, Myron was so cool, bro. And Myron was another one. You just didn't mess with Myron, man. You know, yeah. Myron was kind of chubby, but you just knew. You know, you just knew, man. You know, you can look in that dude's eyes and see that Myron was enough. And me and Tim respected him because of that. And Myron was funny. I cracked jokes and everything. You know. But anyway, so I go back in the aisle, start doing my work. And he comes in there, the boss does, and he apologizes to me. Sorry, Jamal, I didn't mean to get you upset, bro. You know. And I apologize back to him. So the day's good. They call me in the office. Jamal, come to the office. Oh, I already know. So I went to the office, and I'm talking. And I told him, I said, yeah, but you can't smash the bosses. James is smiling. Our big boss James was smiling. He's like, you can't smash the bosses with the pallet, bro. He said, we would have had to fire you. He goes, but, he said, you're not going to get fired. You're okay, man. I didn't care. I didn't care because I hated Target. I did not care if they was going to fire me. No. Didn't care because I didn't like that job because the people was mean to me there. They treated the Mexicans like they was gold. So I didn't really care about that job. So I went there because I made good money and paid my rent. So that's why I went every day. But I didn't want to get fired either. But if they told me to beat it, I would have just left because I didn't care. So a couple of days go by and Man, stuff in your throat tries to kill you, dude. Seriously. But anyway, fat dude, man. I even forgot his name. He used to do, he used to put up the banners at Target and work there. They had this little glass case and they put flyers. And that was his job. Well, they gave him, Don went back to the military. That was his name, Don. And they gave the fat dude Don's job because Don was our boss. Vowdy moved to another store. Gave the fat dude the job. You know, I'm missing a lot of people, but there's a reason why. Because I don't want to get all day with the story. But anyway, so we're inside the truck. Me and Tim's throwing the truck. Fat dude comes in, tells Tim if he can move the line, control the people on the line. So Tim takes off out of the truck. Man, the dude's in there, and you gotta sweep the truck out after we get done. The trailer, you gotta sweep the trailer out. So we're sweeping the trailer. I am sweeping the trailer, got the broom. I didn't really care. I'm sweeping it, getting near the end, and there's a pile. So I'm about to pick up the pile. He bends down and hits me in the face with the dustpan. I mean, just I'm seeing stars. Now, if he said sorry, it would have been a different story. But he started laughing. So I looked at him when I got up. I said, "Oh, you think it's funny, mother?" I cursed. He stopped laughing because he sees I was serious. Hey, dude, I said, "I'll F you up in here, bro." I said, "You think I'm playing with you, dude?" So I'm walking towards him. So here comes Tim. He comes back and he comes and gets me. He's like, "Jamal, what is your problem?" They didn't see on the cameras because we're in a trailer, so they can't see. And I told that fat dude why Tim's taking out. I said, "Dude, I'll bust your butt, bro. I don't know who you think you playing. Nigga, you gonna hit," and I called him a nigger. I said, "You gonna hit me in the face?" A white dude, and I called him a nigger. I said, "Nigga, you gonna hit me in the face, bro?" And his eyes got big, He was surprised that I called him. I said, "Dude, I'll smash you, bro. I'll rip you in pieces." This is what I'm saying to him. Because I wanted to kill this dude. Because he hit me in the face with the dustpan. To me, he did it on purpose, but he didn't even say sorry, dude. He just started laughing, so that made it even matter, So I was about to pop this dude's head off, because like I told you, I didn't care about that job, dude. I went because I was able to go every day. I made okay money. It was okay, Get paid every 2 weeks, so it was okay. It was okay to me. It was okay, but I just didn't like the people. But anyway. They told me to get a vacation. I've been there for a long time. 9 years I've been working at Target. Vacation time comes. Now, they say you only take a week for vacation. Now, I wrote down in the paperwork I wanted 2 weeks. I requested a month, but Val said, "No, you can't have a month, 2 months. She can have a couple weeks, maybe a week at the most." Oh, okay. So I wrote down 2 weeks, and they'd okayed it. They okayed it because I wasn't been at home. So I take off. I'm gone. Taking my vacation. My second week comes. I call to see if everything's good. They say everything's good. I continue my vacation. Friday comes. Saturday I gotta go to work. Saturday night comes. Actually, Saturday morning. We start 4 in the morning, so I'm there at 3:30 at the door. The fat dude looks at me and he shakes his head. The dude I was going to kill. He shakes his head. He said, "What's up, bro?" He said, "Can't let you in, Jamal." I said, "What do you mean you can't let?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "They fired you." I said, "Fired me for what?" He said, "You took 2 weeks off." I said, they said I could. No, he said, "You only take a week." I said, "You know what, bro?" I said, "That's cool, bro. That's cool." He said, "You can come back and talk to Jeff." I said, "Nah." I said, "That's cool." I said, "All right, talk to you later." So I hopped on my bike and I went back home. Because I was so fed up with Target that I didn't even care that I got fired. Because I was just so burnt out on that job. You know. I had my homeboy staying with me. He got fired too. He comes home, he tells me he got fired. He almost killed somebody with a forklift. So, I'm nervous, because I always get nervous when it comes around rent. And I got all these people in my house. I got Derek. I got my wife, Nettie. Just my wife, really. But my wife's telling me not to worry. Stop worrying, babe. I got you. Don't worry. You know. But she had a job too. You know. So I go to temporary. I do a couple construction jobs, which I like. Construction cleanup. Still like it today. So I'm doing construction cleanup. That's over, but that doesn't last long. Well, I ended up getting fired from construction cleanup because me and this black dude, all the white dudes went to work. Went to lunch. And they got mad at us because we went home. They take an hour lunch. Sometimes a little bit longer. So I'm just sitting waiting for these dudes. They never show back up. So we split. Go home. They call me at home. And the company that I work for, temp company, and they said, yeah, unfortunately they fired you. I said, fire me for what? They tell me why. I said, you know what? That's cool. She goes, don't worry about it, Jamal. I got a better job for you anyway. You know. She goes, but you got to let them know when you go home. I said, oh no. I said I didn't. So I just told her. I said, these people. She said, don't worry about it. So I didn't worry about it. So it ended up. Let's just say they took us to. I started working for Chips Incorporated. That was the last construction job I did. Chips was a paint shop job. So we got our construction man, this other dude. I drove there because I had my truck. Man, him get out. We got construction equipment on. We come walking through the shop. And these guys are looking at us. All the people are like, what's wrong with these guys? So the boss, Louise, comes over to us. He starts smiling. Mr. Louise does. Come on, guys. That's what he says. He's Mexican. Come on, guys. So we follow him. And he goes, you guys can take that stuff off. I'll put it in your truck. So we take off our stuff, our construction stuff. And we put it in my truck. So it's taking us through showing us all the paints. And this is when I first started this job. How to do it. He puts me on one table. The new guy that was with me on another table. They're showing me this ended up being, I don't know, man, 5-6 year job that I had. But what I learned, once again, like Target, a bunch of Mexicans. And Mexicans were in charge on this job, this time. The other job, the white people was. But on this job, the Mexicans were in charge. So it was almost like the same treatment. Because I was the only black, I was originally the only black dude there. Everybody was Mexican. Some Mexicans couldn't speak, and some of them could speak broken English. So those are the ones that, like Tony, speak very little English. I was learning Spanish. I was almost to the point I was going to go to Spanish. I was going to take Spanish classes so I can talk to these people. But God being God, I did some things that God didn't like, and the job ended. I don't care what anybody says. It ended so bad that the whole job just moved out of the country. That's how bad it was. And I haven't been working since I had this little job when I came out here, Vegas. I didn't like it. Terrible Herbs gas station. And I was a clerk, cashier. That's what it was. And that wasn't fun. That wasn't for me. I don't work good under pressure. And every job that I had was construction or line work. This was something totally Totally different. And I wasn't comfortable doing it. Now the lady, yeah, she was my boss, black lady. She was boss, but I would say she was cool, but we didn't get to talk too much because, like I said, she was the boss. And I just didn't mess with the bosses. So, but the job that I just didn't like the job. It just wasn't for me. That job just wasn't for me, because once I got sent home or I went home, whatever, and they told me not to come back, or Chris told me not to come back. I didn't go back to the job, but I went in for an interview to get my last check because I couldn't get my check that I worked 4 days for. Anyways, so the lady asked me, it was giving me, what happened? So I told her. So she was going to give me my job back, but I didn't want the job back. Well, I was talking to my mom about it, and she's like, well, if you don't want to go back, then don't. Cool. All right. So I never went back because it just didn't sit good with me, man. I don't like jobs that do not care about you. I don't. I can't work for a company like that. I worked at Chips for so long because at that time I needed a job. So I dealt with a lot of bull. Plus I knew the people, so it really didn't bother me that much, but it did. But Mr. Louise, he was a strict boss, but he was fair. He was fair, but he was nothing to mess with. Wouldn't want to make Mr. Louise mad. Not that I was afraid of him as fear, but I respected him because what type of man he was and how he ran his company. And Mr. Louise was a fair man. He didn't cheat you. He didn't look at you because you was black. He didn't look at none of that. He looked at you as a worker. And if you did your job, he commended you. If you didn't, he'd correct you. That's just how it was. So I respected Mr. Louise because of that. Only thing I didn't like was that some things I just didn't agree with. Like when they'll come on my table and put their testers on my table and they don't clean the paint up that they put on my table. And they get mixed in with my paint. Next time I'm getting in trouble for it. I didn't like that. But they said you have to deal with it. Anyway, I'm not going to go into another story because I'm going to make this too long. So, ball man out.